Go live with it. Hey, what is the deal, everybody? Listen, we have a special, most splendiferous occasion. We have a legend. We have someone that is synonymous with this shield. I mean, almost more so than anybody who's ever played for the organization. We have a man that is world-renowned. He's backstage now. But let me tell you guys something, man. You guys are in for a real treat. But listen, you guys know what I always say. Let's start this podcast. Because, look, I can't start the podcast without the intro. So here we go. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody that is out there in Raider Nation. You guys share this thing out to all social media. You know that we don't normally cook until there's over 100 in the room. But you know what? I cannot keep this man backstage any longer. So everybody jump on board. The great and powerful Violator is in the place to be. My brother, how are you? Man, I'm so happy to have this conversation with you tonight, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. And, we only come together when it's a need. Now, it's this talk that we're going to cover today is needed. So buckle up, get you a drink, and sit back.
That's right, man. That's right. Now, look, I first and foremost, the main thing I need to ask you, just to start this off, man, doesn't it feel different? Doesn't this offseason, everything that's going on, doesn't this just feel just a little bit different? I mean, it does to me. I'm trying not to get too excited, but man, I know I got to get your take on everything that's been going on this offseason, from the Pete Carroll move to the draft, to, I mean, everything. I mean, how have you been feeling about all the moves that have been made?
Listen, Wasted, when you've seen it before, like you never forget a smell of a certain woman.
Yes, sir.
When you've seen it before and experienced it, yes, this is what it's feeling like now going forward. And it was just time to kind of pivot the ship a little bit. It was going, but it was just a little bit off course. Now I'm feeling like we're back on course, and we have cohesive minds that function together like a squad that's trying to go and win something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, from what I can see, the thing that sticks out to me, right, is just the fact that the organizational structure is proper. We have an actual GM. We have an owner that owns. We have a coach that coaches. Like, that right there is the foundation of excellence right there. And then the next thing that I see, and I want to get your take on it, is some of the kids that they've drafted this year. A lot of the guys that they've drafted this year are guys that have played a lot of snaps in college, a lot of snaps. You got guys that, because we lost a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps for the team last year, and people think that you could just replace that, and you can't. And I know NFL snaps are totally different than college snaps, but we have some guys like Jack Besh, like, Ashton Genty. These guys played a lot of football, and they're ready to rock and roll. I think a lot of these rookies this year, we're gonna get a lot out of at least 3 to 4 of these guys, man. I think in this draft they hit it out of the park. I think they drafted 4 starters. I really do.
Definitely so. And I was going to add to what you said. To me, the type players they got, you heard them going through the whole interview process, the combine, blah blah blah. Guys that love football. Well, what I see that they took, except for a couple, they weren't glamour players. They were positional players and guys who knew their roles. Yes, so sir. Now having that, these guys are eager because, for one, they were overlooked by so many. and told they couldn't accomplish certain things. That puts a fire under your ass that no amount of coaching could ever do. You know, self-motivation is a beautiful thing. I'm anxious to see, like I said, you said 4 starters. There may be 4 or 5. A couple that may be forced into those positions because of injury situations.
Yes,
but
sir.
I'm proud to say that I've never been so, like I told you backstage, I haven't been this excited since 2016. And you know what kind of squad we had then.
Yes, sir.
We've got a class of young bucks with attitude, even the UDFAs. And I think I like it personally when you get some underdogs, some junkyard dogs with something to prove.
Yeah, I mean, because that intestinal fortitude is how you win in the National Football League. I look at guys like Caleb Rogers, right? You know, that kid, I think he's going to be a starter. I look at the Charles Grants of the world, even some of the UDFAs, man. Some of these UDFAs, man, are guys that I think they're going to really, really push to make this team. Mello Dotson, a lot of these guys are going to make this football team. I am super, super, super excited. But piggybacking off of that. You know, we talk about how it feels different. Right? We're excited. The one thing that I think has been missing is a home field event. You know, and
talk about it.
That really, really has been bothering me the last few years. Could you speak to how we can get that culture back? Because I think there's a piece of the culture that kind of was taken away when we moved to Las Vegas. And you're an integral part in curating the culture for Raider Nation, right?
Look, wasted. Having been to all 3 cities, and you know, seeing the culture from afar. First of all, as a kid, moving to Cali in '77 and seeing the culture live and in person, brother. When you, to all Raider fans listening, when you say you're a Raider fan and this don't get you pumped, you better check your card. Just seeing the culture from the 3 cities, LA was great, but Oakland to me will always be Mecca. And those who didn't get to experience that, you missed. All you can do is hear our stories, but you can never feel that feeling of being in that raggedy arena on game day. And
nothing like it.
Vegas, here we go. We got the Taj Mahal of NFL stadiums. But that culture inside the building is way different from me. I feel like sometimes I'm a visitor at the other team's facility. Raider Nation, and I understand it's, you know, a lot of this was built into the move now, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it. A lot of that was built in. But the part that us fans can control is putting our butts in the seats.
Yes,
now,
sir.
When the tide rises, it raises all ships. But I don't want to go through life being that type fan. When it's down, I turn my back or talk shit. I'm there 100%. Like I tell the fans, bring your A game every time you step in that turnstile. That's what Raider Nation is. It's a feeling that only us can magnify when we're united with each other.
Man, that's a fact. And you know what I've noticed just being a member of Raider Nation my whole life and you know, watching how other fan bases operate. The one thing about being a Raider fan that's different, it is one of the closest things I've seen to almost being in a cult. Like it is, and not the negative aspects of being in a cult, right? But it's just it's a culture, it's a personality type. It is all encompassing. There's no other fan base in sports, at any sport, that I can even draw a parallel to us, right? And you're right at the forefront of that. You, Gorilla, you know, Senor, all you guys, right? And the thing that I wanted to ask you, right, was going into Las Vegas, right, and us not having, you know, the most success, you know, the seats, you know, being a little more expensive because you got to pay to own the Taj Mahal in the NFL. Of course, it's never going to be like it was in the Coliseum. The thing I wanted to ask you is that do you see other ways that we can kind of bring that feeling back if certain people can't afford to get in the building. Because listen, we live in a world now where the economy is in a certain way. Everybody doesn't have the resources to go to Allegiant Stadium. Are there any ways that you could see guys being able to kind of get together as a fan base and kind of make this thing grow?
From my perspective on that one, Wasted, the culture derived from people coming together. You know, that whole shield to me means that we're the misfits. And kudos to the great late Al Davis, for his whole concept. To name a team Raiders, what does that put in your mindset when you hear that word? You know, when I was coming up, when I was a little bit younger, the whole saying was put the women and children to bed.
That's right.
And as a youngster, I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little bit too intense for them. But as you come into the arena, there are females and youngsters, kids, just as intense as the adults. So it's a mindset of that whole brotherhood. And like you hear me all the time speaking of brotherhood. Yes, every family has its differences, but damn it, you work those out. You know, when you have a common cause, which is for this thing to host another Lombardi trophy, damn it, put the little insubtleties, leave them at the door. When we go in on game day, we're a united front. In Oakland and in LA, other team fans were kind of afraid to come in there. So that's an
understatement.
I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth. They were. I spoke to a lot of them. They were literally afraid to enter the gates. So what does that tell you? In Vegas, we have to, and we can develop that same mindset. Not that you're roughing people up, because I highly disapprove of that. All these fans are families just like us.
Yes.
But we have to be such a notorious force, and I'm making a shameless plug, but I don't care. We have to be so notorious as a fan base that they feel that aura. And us as ambassadors, that's what I try to exude everywhere we go. You know, we're people, but that image that we portray means winning, and we're just focused on domination. And I got that from Al. His whole thing was domination, not just go out and play. Everybody gets a check, yeah, but dominate. So to hear these young players that we have talking about being great, I love it. Because you're pushing for something that you're going to do when the cameras ain't around, when your folks ain't around, when you're at odds with your family, you push forward. So my formula is consistency over time, brother. And like I say, I've truly been blessed to witness certain things in this industry with this team.
Yes,
and
sir.
Stuff that's coming. But that faith is what keeps me so enthused about it, man. This never tarnishes in my heart. Never.
And I think a lot of young fans need to hear that, right? Because, this team over the last, decade or two has not given them a whole lot to root for, right?
You can say it too.
And, we have seen some of the great times. We've seen, championships. I haven't seen championships. I was born for 2 championships, but I don't remember what was going on in 1980. I'm not gonna lie. 1981, I don't remember, but I vividly remember the Super Bowl 1983, right? And this is the thing for me, right? I remember the Rich Gannon years and Tim Brown. Like a lot of these young fans, I tip my hat to them and I respect them because they don't have a whole lot to hold on to, and they're still faithful and they're still there every week. And I think it's really important for us not to lose that culture. But real quick, I want to circle back to something you mentioned. You mentioned the great Al Davis. Walk me through like your interactions with Al Davis, man. Like how was he? Because I know you being one of the guys that kind of set the table for our fan base. I mean, did you have a lot of interactions with Mr. Davis when he was alive?
I had a few, but they were always brief. But I think it was when we first met, it was the image. And I'm going to short story. When I met him at the LA Coliseum, he and Jim Otto were coming from the field. So the usher, on the front row told me to just stay here, stay close to the gate. So he whistled when they were on the way up. So I slid over there. Jim Otto's leading Mr. Davis up the steps. Soon as Jim saw me, he stopped, put both hands on the gates, and he just looked me up and down and he says, "Damn, son, I wish I could have worn something like that in my playing days. I would have I'm going to keep it clean. I would have messed up a lot of players." And that was just like passing the baton to me. Oh, I'm on the right path. But he saw the intensity, and what my intent was, hey, we are pirates. And that's what I try to bring to the arena. We are pirates, the bandits. So, we're gentlemen and scholars and all that good stuff, family men. But on game day, we are warriors, and we come to watch the gladiators perform. So Mr. Davis peeped around Jim to see who he was talking to. And I saw him, he did a double take, and I just stared at him and I nodded my head, And he told Jim, "Hurry up, we got to get upstairs." And, so Jim kind of chuckled. He kind of chuckled because, Mr. Davis like, who the hell are you talking to, this freak? And that's kind of the way he looked at me like, who the hell let this guy in here? But over the years, as I had that big voice, and my whole thing was get that LA Hollywood crowd off their ass. That was the whole purpose behind it. Get the hell up and let's stomp the yard. So when I moved my seats to the Pirates Pavilion in the East End Zone, which was all metal bleachers, I'm like, this is a weapon here. We can make so much noise the quarterbacks can't hear shit. So that was the thing. Starting to get the youngsters into it, and that's where I kind of saw purpose. Even though I was so young, I wasn't thinking about that at the time. But it was like, I need soldiers to help facilitate this noise. So I would get the youngsters involved. They got energy. They want to jump around. So I says, look, stomp up and down these steps with me. So I was just a ritual, brother. Up and down the steps every time the offense for the other team was on the field. Nobody sits down. Third down, I want everybody in the stands up. So that's kind of what brought the whole persona. Look, we're not here watching baseball waiting on a seventh inning stretch. We come in here to stand up like the people in the gladiator arenas back in the day. You can tell I'm like a historian on medieval times.
Yeah. What's funny, man? I was reading some stuff about you, and they said when you were a kid, you had a fascination with knights.
Yes.
And that's kind of one of the things that attracted you to being a fan of the Raiders. Walk me through how you came to be a Raider fan, because, a lot of people don't know this, but you're originally from the South and you moved to Cali, right? How does a kid from the South get drawn to the Raiders like that?
Long story short, wasted. Where I grew up in Mississippi, the favorite teams were the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Bears, and the Rams. And me as a kid, I was like, I hate all these bright ass colors. So I was a student of the game, so I watched the game from the competitive aspect. One Sunday afternoon, I'm watching the Chiefs. And here comes this team in silver and black. And I'm like, oh, shit, who's these? And I was calling them Knights, Look at these Knights coming out here. And just the tempo of the game and the physicality of the game, I remember brawl broke out. And the cameras back then, they didn't have 100 cameras.
All these angles like they do now, right? Yeah.
They zoomed in on the fight, and that's the first time I really paid attention to the shield. I'm like, that's two swords and a one-eyed pirate. Love at first sight, brother. So 12 years old, mind you now, 1970, 12 years old, I made up my mind that wherever that team was, that was going to be home for me. So California immediately became on my radar. So, and I would speak about it to my, my schoolmates and whatever, and they all giggle and chuckle. Oh, yeah. To them, that's way across the world. Even my mom, once I, told her and shared the story, she thought I lost my mind. baby, why would you move way over there? Because I love this team. So I need to be closer to that kind of action.
That kind of love, that's a different kind of love, man.
I made it a quest, brother. Look, in my heart, we were already husband and wife or whatever. We were soulmates at that point. And like I was telling you earlier, that drive and that faith, and as you grow into this whole Raiderism, either it's for you or you're going to struggle.
That's right.
And I don't mean struggle because of the team's performance, because as a fan, that faith should never waver, bro. And like I told you earlier, some fans are just like blades of grass in a breeze. When you stand up for something and you believe so strongly, you will convince others with your positive energy. That's what makes this shield to me what it is, bro. Universally known and respected, and we're going to get back to there again.
Yes, we definitely are. And you know what's a little different about us as a fan base? You go anywhere in the world. I've traveled around the world. I've been in the islands. I've been all with my family. It's when you wear that shield and somebody recognizes that shield and they're Raider fans, it's almost like your instant family. It's an unbelievable. And look, I'm a New York Knicks fan, right? I'm a New York Yankee fan. It's just something about the Raiders that is wholly different for me, right? And it is like that from everywhere else. But I think one of the things that makes our fan base different is the fact that our fan base has an identity. Like you have other teams, you got the Cleveland Browns with the dog pound, this and that. But I think that the identity of guys like yourself and Gorilla and the whole entire black hole, I think that our fan base is synonymous with the team in a way that no other team is like. Could you walk me through how the whole black hole even came to be? Because you guys were at the forefront of that. You guys are the foundation of that. And to be honest with you, you guys have really been a huge part of our identity in some dark times, right? And one of the big things that we had to be proud of. You know, that and especially, and I want to give you your flowers too before you answer, man. Look, you guys, especially you have represented this fan base in a way that I can't even describe. And I want to tell you, thank you. I want to also give you your respect and praise and props for always representing the Shield and making us proud when you go out there and y'all represent and you guys make us even we could be the worst team in the league, but our fan base is respected worldwide because of the work that you guys put in, going to games and representing and not wavering, man. We don't have one of those kind of fan bases like, and I'm gonna say like the 49ers. Their fans don't show up when they're losing, man. Their fans don't show up. I see it all the time, man. I see some of these fair weather fan bases when they start winning, everybody want to show up again. That Oco Coliseum wasn't empty like that. That no matter how bad or good we're doing, it is the same presence all the time, and that I think that's part and parcel to the work that you guys put in, man.
Listen, bro, look, I got goosebumps from that, but I appreciate that. But here's the deal. I just feel like I was born to do this. And that whole super fan, moniker that's out there, I call it a media thing. I wasn't about that. It was about being humble, but I'm like a silent warrior. And I wanted other brothers and sisters that had that same mindset around me. And that's contagious, brother. And that's what the whole black hole thing was about. It was family first, football on Sundays. You bring your families to church. That's basically the way I felt growing up through these years. That was like fellowship, and I still call it that. We cried on each other's shoulders. We lifted each other up. And if our team record was 2-15, that energy in the parking lot, come on, bro. You can't manufacture that. It was real. So we took it inside, and it was just a place to be. And we took pride in that. We fill that place up regardless of how the team performed. Because as a fan, you have to understand one thing first. Fandom is having that, short of fanatic. So we're fanatics about this team for whatever reason it is. and we all have a story. Trust me. But bringing that faith and that fanaticism together and multiplying it 60,000 plus, or let's say globally, that's powerful, man. And when you start affecting people in that way, you saw how the black hole just grew. That everybody wanted to be in that mosh pit. And that's what I love, because nobody sit down. There's an energy in standing up. It keeps you alert, keeps you moving. You can rock all day with each other. And that's what the black hole was like. So we started to expand that thing completely around the stadium where nobody was sitting. You could spot people that were sitting because they were blocked out.
Yes, sir.
Now, recent years, I would say, maybe 8-10 years ago, this new shit with texting to the security if you couldn't see the game. When you get down in the lower bowl of any stadium, you better be ready, because people are there because they want to be close to the action. That's where the shit's going down.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Players on the bench, that I've had them tell me over the years, bro, we can hear you over every. Yes, because I worked all week. I'm coming here to see a beat down. Nothing less.
Look, I love that energy, man. We and I what's funny, man. I wanted to kind of like steer into the present, right?
Yeah, we can do. Hey, we can meander to the present.
So now.
Back then, bro, it was about bring your A game. We were the lunch pail, and you're working construction for a week, and I'm spending, a good percentage of my pay to make that travel.
Yeah, no, that's a fact, man. It's a big commitment.
So it's all about commitment, bro. But I'm not accepting mediocrity. I'm just gonna put it out there. You expect too much when you put these colors on for mediocrity. And we've gone through years of that, and prima donnas and guys that was just there for paychecks. Oh, I got on them about all of that. So I really was like a mouthpiece speaking what the other fans were thinking, but were afraid to speak it.
You know what? And this is the one thing that for me, this offseason, and I wanted to know how you feel. It's almost been cautious optimism, but I'm almost, it's the first time I'm ever saying this live, I'm almost afraid, because there have been times where we've made a change. We've made changes. We've had, like since 2016, how many coaches we had? Like 6 or 7 coaches. It's been crazy, right? Like we've had Jack, we had Richie B, we've had Josh McDoucher, we've had freaking, AP. Jack Del Rio. We've had so many coaches, right? And even before that,
go down and down. Yeah.
We can go down, around, over river and through the woods, right? But every time one of those coaches came in, I can see a way that it could fail. In the back of my mind, my football brain, my heart, and my spirit as a Raider fan, I want to always see the good in every move they make.
Yes.
Any move they make, my football brain will pick out 25 things that could be wrong with it, and my football brain will pick out 25 things that are going to be right. And I'm always going to go to the positive end of things because I want this team to win, right? But it was no surprise when the Antonio Pierce thing didn't work. And shout out to AP, right? I wanted that to work. I really did, man. I was rooting for the guy, right? When Gru came back, we were rooting for Gru. Even with Josh McDaniels, and he's a Patriot, and every fiber in my being was like, oh my God, they brought a Patriot. I can't stand the Patriots. I can't stand them. I can't stand. And it's funny, the irony that Tom Brady is a part owner of the team now, right? So, but it was something that, listen, I love this team enough. I'll accept it, right? But this time, I can't find any holes in the ideology of what was done. This time, I almost feel like if it doesn't work, then how could it ever work? All of the things that have been done right now, man, I'm almost afraid for this thing not to get turned around, because you have a Hall of Fame coach. You have a player like Max Crosby that has, galvanized that building, and he's raised the standard of what's acceptable and what's not in the building, right? He's brought that level, and even though he hasn't won anything yet, he has the kind of mentality where I know eventually he will win. Like it's just a single-mindedness that is certain players only bring. You know, there are guys like Lawrence Taylor that I've seen, and guys like Ray Lewis. He's bringing that level of energy to the Raiders. And I've always wanted that here, right? Then you got Pete Carroll, and you have Brady at the top with Mark Davis and helping him with some of the football decisions. You have John Spytek, who is so far, as advertised. He is a savant. He's a terrific GM. If it doesn't work this time, I don't know how I'm gonna process that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see any way that this doesn't work. And I'm almost afraid, Violator. I'm gonna be honest with you. I am. I'm afraid for this not to work, man. I'm afraid to get excited, man. That's why a lot of people have been telling me I've been a wet blanket because I'm normally super optimistic, but I'm trying to keep myself centered and be cautiously optimistic. I mean, how does this new regime, just from you seeing everything from the 70s till now, how is this thing passing the smell test for you as a fan?
Well, I like that you said that smell test. Can you smell what the Raiders are cooking?
That's right.
Listen, let's get in the kitchen real quick. Listen, man, what you said about when you pulling all in one direction for something that's bigger than yourselves, this is the energy that I'm getting in the building. And I think they've hit on the formula. And in football, more than any other of the sports, chemistry is so important. You can have talent galore, but out of the 11 guys on the field at one time, it only takes one to screw everything up.
Yeah. And
you want that brotherhood, and that's what I'm loving. I'm hearing the chatter from the players, that brotherhood and that camaraderie. Now, when AP was there, kudos. We saw the locker room as galvanized as I've had in a few years. And there's always been something there to disrupt the energy. You know, when I say disrupt something negative, but that comes to leadership. The coaches ain't running the locker room. The players are.
Yeah.
And that's when your leaders step up. So I'm seeing leaders from different positions, some quieter than others, but they all have the same vision. So when you got 53 guys looking the same way, brother, you can burn through walls if you need to, and definitely can run through them if necessary. But like I said, I'm getting jacked up just thinking about what I'm saying.
Yeah, man.
But listen, that faith is what keeps all of us afloat, brother. You used the word earlier, cautious optimism. That's me as an OG, cautious optimism. That optimism is bubbling, but I'm going to keep the lid on it. Because on paper, a lot of years we've looked like playoff contention teams.
Yeah.
But on the field, the execution and the focus is what really breaks all the eggs open for us, man. So discipline, smart, but you know there's going to be a physical team because Coach Carr wants nothing less than that. And we hate to kind of, we always compare stuff. Well, Legion of Boom was that. But as a Raider fan, I admired that defense.
I did too.
Did too. That reminded me of the Raiders from the 70s and 80s. So with the pieces in play, even with the young pups, every young pup needs what? His opportunity. You can blow that like a few that's no longer with us, blew their opportunities before it even flourished.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is about planting seeds, keeping that seed wet. Once it starts to germinate, bro, you start seeing leaflets popping up from the dirt. That's growth. So that's what we're seeing. It ain't the field. That's the personnel inside the building, man. Everybody's trying to predict what we're going to be. So, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I'm going to call it 9-8.
That's, you know what? It's funny. That's exactly where I have us. 9-8.
To me, that's a winning season, brother. Compared to last season, that's light years from what, that shows you light years of improvements.
And you got to build a foundation. You don't just win and go to the Super Bowl right away. Yes. Like, when I look at the class of the league, right, you look at the Eagles or you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And I hate it makes me throw up in my mouth to say the Kansas City Chiefs, but it is that is what it is.
Respect where it's due.
But if you look at the way that thing kind of got together, right? I mean, this is, when Andy Reid got there. The first thing Andy Reid did was he went out and he got Alex Smith, right? And, him having Alex Smith being there was a galvanizing force. It reminds me of the Geno move, right? Alex Smith kind of set the table, right? They got back to winning. They got back to winning the division. They got back to going to the playoffs every year. And it got to a point in the road where they couldn't get over the hump, and they didn't see themselves getting over the hump with Alex Smith. And they went out and they took a flyer on a physically talented quarterback that we now know is Patrick Mahomes. He groomed him for a year, and he took off and hit the ground running, and they haven't looked back. And I kind of feel like the Raiders are headed in that trajectory. You have a guy like Pete Carroll, who is one of the deans of the National Football League. Like, he's a guy that goes all the way back. I remember Pete Carroll being the coach of the New York Jets. I remember him being the coach of the Patriots before Parcells got there. Wait. No, was he after Parcells, or was he? I'm trying to remember. I think he was before Parcells.
I think he was before.
He was before Parcells, and then Parcells. Then the whole thing happened with Belichick, or he might have been in between Parcells and Belichick. I can't remember, but I'm forgetting. But he's one of the deans of the National Football. There's not a more decorated coach than Pete Carroll, short of Andy Reid. And having that level of experience shows you how the guy that you have at the top of the organization as a coach is like 80% of whether you win or lose in this league. It really is. It is a very, very important thing. So from what I'm seeing two things, right? I'm seeing us get back to the basis of football. I think there's a lot of new offenses in this league, and there's a lot of fads in this league, but the stuff that really wins is being able to control the line of scrimmage on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, playing physical, and being able to play any style of football you need to win. Playoff teams can run the ball, they can pass the ball, they can stop the run, they can defend the pass. And I look at what happened with the Eagles. They had a game in the snow against the Rams. The reason why they were able to overcome that is because they had Saquon Barkley, and he ran that ball like a mother effer. And Jalen Hurts was running the ball and getting first downs on the ground when they couldn't even see the damn field. And I love what Pete has done with this roster, man. Can out of all the moves that have been made this offseason, which one is your favorite move that you've seen so far?
Favorite move? Wow. Let's
see. I know it's hard to encapsulate that. I get it.
That means that's a good offseason. There's so many that it's hard to pick. But from the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to give Spytek his flowers for this. They really address the trenches. Now, knowing Spytek from Tampa Bay, we watched what some of my cohorts call them the fake Pirates. We watched that team be developed over the years. And when they inserted Tom Brady, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All the pieces were in place. This is what's happening with this squad right now. The advantage we have is we inserted Geno Smith, who's a proven vet. He's another guy who's been kind of like, he's just a middle of the pack, brushed off. That's Geno has a chip on his a cinder block sitting right here. Trust me. Humble guy, but a warrior when he steps between the lines.
Yes, sir.
They're building that team around that. Now, the addition of Genty, they say they want to run the ball. They showed the NFL, we're going to run the rock. I expect this kid to get from 1,200 to 1,500 yards. But as a rookie. But that O-line dictates everything, brother.
Yes, it does.
They've got to now. They may be happy with what they have, but here's my thing. I watched the Eagles, and I watched how Rosenberg draft over the years, and he always gets. If you want a physical, dominant team like the old Raiders were, they were big players. I think Dave Darby was our smallest guy on the line.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Even when Jim Otto did, he was the smallest guy on the line. Those other guys were physical and dominated, and a lot of that is right here.
Yeah,
you can't coach.
You can see it. You can see it.
Yeah,
and you know what's funny?
Your football eyes, you see it. I don't need to know a stat about a player. Put them on the field.
You know what's funny? A lot of people, and I keep bringing this up. People always talk about the Patriot way, or they try to go back to Parcells, and they give him because his family tree is large, right? You know, you have the Parcells family tree, and then you got the Bill Walsh family tree.
Yes.
And these people are all over the National Football League. When you talk about McVay is a part of Bill Walsh's legacy, right? Andy Reid is a part of Bill Walsh's legacy. A lot of these guys, right? Then, you know, all the people that came out of, you know, the Parcells legacy, Sean Payton's and guys like that. But the funny thing is the man who was a mentor to Parcells, the man that he used to call when he was a young coach, the man who he used to lean on when he was a young coach and developing his style was Al Davis.
Yes.
And a lot of the principles that all of these teams use, building a team from the inside out and things like that, all comes from Al, right? So I think the problem with the Raiders has been over the last 20 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're trying to be something that we're not. All we got to do is just be ourselves. If the Raiders are if you follow those principles, big, strong, fast individuals, powerful players, nasty, all of that. If you do that, you will have a successful football team. Yeah. And that's one of the things that always pissed me off when we bring some of these offensive genius coaches in here. It makes me so mad. It's like, what are you doing here? You know, a lot of the stuff, I don't want to go back to Josh McDaniels, and I don't want to disrespect him, man. But some of the stuff that guy did just infuriated me, man. You know, he doesn't work for your system and all this stuff. You know what? Al Davis always look, is he big? Is he strong? Is he fat? We can make him into a player. Bring him on here with the Raiders. If we got to take him and put him on another side of the football, we'll do it. You know, and I feel like that I see that with Lelou. That you know, the young kid that we got, the young UDFA that we got, they're willing to try that boy out wherever, the rugby player, because they know that they have something, they have a special athlete in the building. They just need to make the pieces work, right? I wanted to really get into, you know, the present, right? Because we were talking about the past.
Let's go. Now
I want to talk more about the present here. Like, what do you see like from this offseason? We just signed AJ Cole and chat, guys. I want you guys to understand, Violator is my co-host today. So if you guys got anything that you want to ask him, put it in the chat. We're gonna read it. I'm gonna start reading some of y'all comments and supers and stuff like that. But I wanted to pick your brain about the Colton Miller contract and the Jacoby Myers contract. Like, I see what Spy's doing. Like, he went out there, he signed AJ Cole. AJ Cole, well deserved of that deal. I see some of the players that John Spytek has shored up. They got him. They got Max's money. They're shoring up the foundation of this team for the foreseeable future. A lot of younger players, right? One of the guys they're starting to become a little long in the tooth, and who would ever thought that being 30 years old is long in the tooth, right? But guys like Colton Miller, who's one of the senior members of this team, he has 1 year left on his deal. I personally, this is my personal opinion, I have no problem with Spytek and them kind of letting that situation develop and kind of seeing how healthy he is and seeing, you know, what he has, because, you know, he had a shoulder injury. It's not great for a left tackle. And I don't really like to, you know, listen, Colton Miller deserves he's been great for us.
Yes.
But do you see like the Raiders signing Colton Miller, or do you see them moving off of him? And they drafted a kid, Charles Grant, who seems like he has all the tools to be a pretty special left tackle at one point. Do you see the Raiders signing him and bringing him back?
Worst case scenario with Colton. Now, I feel he deserves everything because he has been the rock. Left tackle being injured, special shoulder. I watched him last season. I watched whoever he lined up against. I watched him target his right side. So it's like he's out there playing basically one-handed. So I saw them attack his weakness, which is smart football. You attack your enemy's weakness. So I feel they may extend him, and I'm really not worried about Jacoby. You know, here again, we were talking about outside noise. They know these guys have earned that right, and you need your field generals in there. Now, when shit hits the wall, Colton never loses his shit. He's right there because he's been there. He's been in the battles.
Battle tested, battle proven.
Battle tested, battle proven. Like I say, even the best of them get injured. And, whether it's ankle, knee, or shoulder, whether in his case, his leverage was one-sided. So defenses played to his weak side, and you saw him get beat a lot. I was frustrated and caught myself saying stuff I regretted.
Yeah.
In retrospect, Colton has his ass at OTAs. He was at voluntary stuff, showing them that he has the fabric to be a leader. So I don't see you letting leaders walk out of the building.
And that's what ingratiates me to him as well. He didn't hold out. He showed up like a man. He's there. He wants to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
He wants to be there. Same with Jacoby Myers. He's a dog, dude. He's a football player. You've seen most receivers, you could almost classify them as prima donnas.
Yeah.
Not this cat. To me, he has a linebacker mentality.
Yes, he does, especially downfield. And look, downfield, weak side blocking, all that stuff. This guy is going to be huge in our running game. And I look at that from some of the guys that we've taken, like Jack Besh.
Yes.
He's also an imposing physical receiver. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's super physical. LSU guy, SEC guy, played at TCU. This is a guy who has played with some of the best receivers in his league and led LSU in receptions. So I think we got to steal with Jack Besh.
Oh, yeah.
So the one recurring theme is physicality. Jeremy Chin, Tommy Eichenberg. Is there any person on the roster today that you got your eye on that most people aren't really looking at and aren't thinking about that you see making a huge impact this season?
You just spoke of it. Tommy Eichenberg. Watched his whole Ohio State college career. Reminded me a lot of Matt Millen with a little bit more coverage talents or skills.
Yeah.
Coverage skills. But a thumper, and it's time for him to take his rightful place in that linebacker room, because to me, and being a linebacker, that's been our weakness for decades.
It has.
Since Rolando McClain or
man, I mean, going back to Greg Biekert and all of them, and when we had Romo and them here, it's been a long time. Look, and shout out to Kirk Morrison. Kirk Morrison was a terrific linebacker for us too, right? But when I look at Eichenberg, and he was one of my sleepers as well, right? And when we were talking about, because when you got Patrick Graham used a lot of sub packages, right? He uses sometimes he won't have a base defense a lot. He uses a lot of defensive backs, nickels, and stuff like that. Sometimes he'll use a corner almost like a will linebacker, right?
Yes. So
sometimes you only have two linebackers on the field. I think that Eichenberg is the reason why they were willing to let Robert Spillane walk, and not just because of the contract that Spillane got with the Patriots. I think that they felt comfortable letting him walk out of the building because Eichenberg is here. I think he's going to have a terrific year, man. Him and Landon Roberts.
Yes. What do you say? What did the coaches say, son? You better step up if you want to stay on this team. I think it's his time personally, barring injury. This kid has all the tools. They need to let him cut his teeth on the field.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The only way you get better is snaps.
And not special teams. Yes, let him cut his teeth. That's one. If he gets beat a little bit, yes. But you got to learn by getting smacked in the mouth. So put him out there. This is his year to shine. Yes,
sir. Is there any – it's funny. So, we talk about the present, right? So I like to transition into the future. Is there any players, man, that that you see on this roster, man, that you see where do you see guys and it's very, very easy, to say that Max Crosby looks like he might be trending in a direction where he might be an immortal, right? Is there anyone else on this roster, man, like a Malcolm Kuntz, any of these guys that you see following suit with Max and being one of those elite kind of players throughout the rest of the league?
Listen, I'm glad you brought up Malcolm. Glad to have him back. God hope he stays healthy. This guy was, and you've heard him speak, he was like a sponge when he saw Max's energy. And that's what I'm saying about leadership. Leadership ain't always about flapping your gums.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going back to Howie. Howie was a leader, but he led by example. You set the standards by what you do, not so much what you say. It's done on the field. And only talking on the field is the mic saying, look, watch over here, watch, look, shift. And the safety, strong safety, same thing. They're field generous from the front end to the back end. And Malcolm is just another one of those dogs, dude. You know, he was a guy who probably was told he was too small to play that position.
Yes.
So you see the tenacity that he brings when he's on the field. Now, compared to a guy like, I was just talking about him earlier. The young kid that we got from, help me, Jesus. Oh, God. Defensive end that we've been waiting on him.
Oh, Tyree Wilson.
Tyree, another guy. Everybody was, including myself, was like, wait a minute, this guy, he should be fully healthy now, you know, because that foot is tricky. But I wanted to see more, I guess, aggressiveness from him, especially looking at his girth. You know, and I'm, you know, here again, it's the eye test. He reminds me of a Matuzak, a thinner Matuzak. But Matuzak had this, screws loose, and he was just an animal. And, you know, I guess you got nice guys, but, you know, Emmitt Smith told me, you know, hey, you're a warrior once you put the cleats on and walk inside the lines. And that's it's like a game of gladiators to me, Wasted.
Yeah.
I still look at players that way. You put on this equipment, what did Parcells say? You lift all them weights, you do all this other shit for a reason. You're getting paid millions of dollars, go out there and kick ass.
Yeah, and this is the thing I think that is kind of missing with Tyree Wilson, right? And I don't want to disrespect Tyree, but I wasn't happy when we drafted Tyree Wilson. I wasn't happy. I want us to take Jalen Carter, right?
Same here.
But didn't happen, right? So when we got him, when you see Tyree Wilson, sight unseen, you don't see no tape, you line Tyree Wilson up with 10 other players, and you're going to be like, I want that guy on my team.
Yes, the eye test.
The eye test, right? The thing that I see with Tyree Wilson is it looks like he's like trying to solve the problem in the air. He hasn't made the connection. His mind and body hasn't made the connection to just playing free. It seems like he's thinking when he's playing. He's hesitating. And I think that he's a guy that hopefully, right, in this year, hopefully he put it all together. Hopefully he puts it all together because he has all the physical ability and tools in the world.
Yes.
He has all the tools in the world. The thing is, I don't think it's a lack of aggression. I think it's hard to be aggressive when you don't necessarily know what gap you're supposed to be in. And I don't know that to be true, right? Because I'm not there with him. Yeah. But it looks like there's a certain level of hesitation that is not being met through preparation. Like with Malcolm Kuntz, even from the time that he got it all together last year and he started playing, he just plays free. He plays free. You see him jump in the snap count. You see him just out there just balling with Tyree. I feel like when he's playing to not make a mistake, as opposed to just cutting loose and pinning his ears back and going after the quarterback. And I would really love to see that. I would love to see that kid, that type of athlete still wear silver and black, and for him to be another guy that can get another contract. Like start stacking some wins here. Brock Bowers, a guy that we stacked up, looks like he's going to be a stud. Looks like he's going to be an all-pro. He was an all-pro. The guy looks special. Ashton Genty looks like he's going to be special. I want to continue to keep stacking good and great players, man. I mean, because the one thing, and you and I spoke about this before when we were at Thor's house, the future of the Raiders is at stake. A lot of the great Raiders of the past, they're passing on, they're dying. All those Hall of Fame players, and a lot of the guys that we have left, all we got left is Timmy and Marcus Allen, and we got Charles Woodson. We got Charles left, right? Johnson. And after Charles, it kind of stops. And we need some more great Raiders. We need some more immortals to walk through that door, man. And I love that Max is who he is, right? But it's got to be more than just that. Because I remember when you spoke of the Raiders, you spoke of a who's who of immortals in the National Football League. immortals. Like, you got, guys like, and John Madden wasn't a player, but guys like John Madden, his name is synonymous with football in general. You talk about guys like Ray Guy, the greatest punter to ever play. You talk about the Marcus Allens of the world. You talk about Jim Otto, probably the greatest center to ever play football. Him and Mike Webster from the Steelers, in my estimation, are two greatest centers to ever play this game. You talk about, Branch. You're talking about a who's who of this game. And Howie Long, there's a gap there. And I'm praying that some of these young men can continue that tradition. Now, look, there are some players that have played for the Raiders that were great players that we love. Guys like Lincoln Kennedy. I don't want to disrespect Lincoln Kennedy, right? But it's not like Link is Anthony Munoz. These are the kind of players that we had in the Raiders, man. And it makes me sad that I'm not seeing that anymore. I'm praying that these guys can do something special and kind of carve their own niche out for the Raiders and carve their, and I don't want to see these guys go anywhere. I don't like it'll break my heart to see Max go somewhere else and win. Right. I want to see him win right here in silver and black, man. Right here. We're due, man. We're due. They talk about my man, the assassin, my Jersey brethren, Patterson, New Jersey's finest, man. Jack Tatum, guys like that. We need more of that here, man.
Yes. And Wasted, to me, we were talking about all these different ways, Patriot way, the Raider way was just what we were speaking on. Guys who were a brand of brothers, and this meant something to them, and I know we're in a different era. Coach Flores shared that with me some years back in Oakland about it wasn't about the shield with these youngsters. It's who's going to pay me the most money. Yeah. And that kind of hurt me at first, but again, you're listening to wisdom speak. So when he just shared the whole thing with me, it kind of opens your eyes to how you look at the game and your expectations of the players that's playing in today's world. I often reference back to Ray Lewis. I mean, when Baltimore picked, I watched him in Miami. So I'm like, wait a minute, this same cat is doing this? Just natural born leaders, man. And when you see them blossom, regardless of what level they go in their careers, it's refreshing because, like I told you earlier, that is infectious to the other guys. That's the beauty of football. It's infectious. One guy can lift that whole squad.
The ultimate team sport.
Ultimate team sport.
It's the ultimate team sport. It's nothing. Yes. You can have one basketball player turn a whole organization around. Just one. But with football, you need everyone to do it.
Everybody, bro.
But what you need is a steward to steer that ship with all of those different energies. And when we talk about energy, right? Energy cannot be created to destroy it. It just transmutes. And that positivity and that leadership, if that can transmute into different young players, you have a special situation. And I can kind of feel that starting to happen here with us. Now, you spoke about like the young players, right? And the differences of the game. And I think this is not mutually exclusive to the Raiders, right? I think it's today's world, right? We live in a world, and Deion Sanders said this very, very eloquently. We live in a world where everyone just likes everything.
Yes.
You go on Instagram, you like a picture, you like a video game, you like a girl, but do you love it? Do you love it? It's rare when you find players that love the game, that love it, right? And I see a lot of players on this squad now that love it, and it makes me really happy. I wanted to really, because it's a blessing to have you here. I want to tell everybody in the chat, if you guys got any questions, because I don't normally, when I do the show, I'm interacting with the chat, but having a legend such as yourself here, I felt like that can wait. What I want to do is I want to read some of the super chats that these guys put up here. So I want to acknowledge them, appreciate them for supporting the channel. And I want everybody, guys, if you guys got any questions for Violator, get it in. You know what I mean? And I also, there was a few other things I wanted to kind of get into, but really, really quickly. My guy, Rorschach Raider says, what is the deal, Wasted? In my show enough voice. Am I the prettiest? Am I the baddest? Do I wear the flyest Raider drip? Wasted, the showgun of Raiders content. Keep it going, brother. Much respect. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. My guy, Rudy Yvette Russo, two of the greatest in the nation. My brother, Rudy. Let me tell you, this guy got Al Davis tattoos. This is a true Raider right here, man. Rudy, he got a Raider Harley. Wow. Raider Harley, man. It's not one of the nicest bikes I've seen, man. My man, Kenny Mack. We got players that were lost in the depth chart showing up and showing out since Pete's been running the show. Mr. Violator, thank you and respect. Shout out to Kenny Mack, man. My guy, Raider Prophet, wasted. Al is what will bring Raider Nation back to glory. Everyone can't afford to physically or financially attend every game live, but we can live in every living room across the globe. Raider Nation for life. Your man, look, from his lips to God's ears, man. My guy, Yeti Strain of Smoking Records, became a YouTube member, and he also donated 20 Raider Nation Unlimited memberships to the masses. Thank you for making the Wasted Talent Army grow in droves at ease, soldier. The Flying Wonderful Yvette Niles, the GOAT in the building. Yo, shout out to Yvette Niles, man. Appreciate you. My brother Ty Davis in the building. He says, I really feel like the tides are changing and the autumn wind is once again a Raider. It is finally our time to dominate again. The NFL will fear us again.
Say that.
And my guy, DeMarcus Wilder, you forgot about Bo Jackson. How could I ever forget about the great Bo Jackson? Father, you got any stories about some of our great players that have played here? I know you got a million of them. I know you and Howie. Howie's like probably guy you is that the guy you closest with from the past?
Not really.
who are the players that were like ones that you got stories about that were some of the coolest guys, man?
Everyone that I would name, brother, I've got stories affiliated with those names, but I'm really close with like your Kenny Kings, your Reggie Kinlaws, your Tim Browns, Phil Villapiano, very close, good friend. Yeah. Art Shell. Man, it's just to have those relationships where they respected what I did. They didn't look at it as a lunatic because they got what it was about. And Howie got to tell me that, So when he nominated me to go into the Hall of Fame, when he came to my house, that's what he just mic dropped.
I remember seeing that. That was amazing. That's why I brought him up, because that was amazing, man.
He saw it from the beginning, and everybody that was in LA knew what the Coliseum was like at times. But my thing was, when you come in there, come ready to go. And you hit the turnstile, the eyes roll back. But they would look around, and he told me, he says, hey, man, we hear you everywhere you go. Keep that energy up, because he would say the media is starting to follow you around. Now, I got introduced to Steve Sable via his camera guys. And he wrote me a letter saying that they enjoyed that energy that I brought. And he explained it to me like it was like fabrics of a flag, the stripes in a flag. They all go together to make that flag. That's what makes the NFL as big as it is today. He says that's called color. People get tired of just seeing the game. So to show the energy from the stands kind of excited people. So it's like college football, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
College football is off the chain, man. And if you haven't been to a college game ever, you need to go.
The energy's totally different.
But back to these veteran players that I'm familiar with. And like I say, even back to Mr. Otto, these guys would share stuff with me, and it just validated everything that I thought and felt about this. And they were all one mind. It was like everybody has the ego thing, but it's when the egos get in the way of business or success, it's when it's a problem. These guys were warriors, but they were humble. And, their stories about the newer players is like, some of them feel like these guys maybe didn't come up as rough. They weren't as hungry for, say, the brass ring for reference. They were just kind of like something to get into the league. But like I say, this new regime, to me, like I told you earlier, has seemed like they've brought in guys who really love football. That's, people will quickly say, oh, he's a football junkie. Hell yeah,
Yeah, man. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of winning. You have to, and that goes back to my original point. You have to love. You have to love things to be excellent at it.
Yes.
You have to love it. You can be very, very good just off of natural ability.
Thank
But the gateway between natural ability and very good and truly great is love. That's the bridge, man. That is the bridge. The passion for the game. That's the main ingredient. You look at anyone. You look at guys like Kobe Bryant. He loved the game. He worked at it.
Speaking of that, Coons was talking about his rehab and just missing being with the guys or being out there with the guys. And people who've been on the gridiron know that it's your boys being with your. That's second to being with your girl. You're being with your boys is that because everybody lets their hair back, and it's about winning. You're not out there just to participate. You know, like youth sports now, everybody gets a damn participation trophy. I'm totally against that because you're not teaching them how to strive to be good. And competition is about winning, not coming in second.
Yeah. Hey, look, there's only one winner. There's only one winner. And when you try to muddy the waters and say everybody's special, if everybody's special, then nobody's special. I tell my kids that all the time. Everybody's special, nobody's special. Yeah. We're all the same, and nobody is the same. There's only one winner, man. And I'm gonna be real with you. I love what we're building in the building. But on a personal note, right? We got some questions in the chat.
Bring them.
Oh, my man, my brother. I mean, a moderator from my channel, DeMarcus Webb says, Violator, who is your Raider Mount Rushmore of running backs? You got 4 of them.
Person, man. Okay. Let me see here. Let me go back, flip my Rolodex back. Running backs. Let me start from the oldest to the youngest. Clem Daniels. I'm gonna put Bo up there, even though his career was
but he's buff.
So short, but that dude was like a comet. Napoleon Kaufman.
I love Napoleon.
Napoleon Kaufman. Quiet as kept, man. I used to call him Mighty Mike. Marcus Allen, of course. You know, his resume speaks for itself. Is that 4? I think that's 4.
That's 4.
There's a few that I could put on there, but those are the 4 from the old generation to the present. Now, we're waiting on somebody to step up in the future.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. From what you've seen of Mr. Genty, because I know that's who you're talking about, right? From what you've seen of him, man, like, how special do you think this kid's going to be? From what you've seen, look, like for me, right? I was one of the people initially. It was like, you know, it's a great running back draft. You can get it back in the 3rd round. Until I really sat down and watched that kid. I watched him. I see his drive strength. I see the way people bounce off of him. I see his vision. It is different. It's special. I think that Ashton Genty is going to get another contract with the Raiders. You know, we're in the age where running backs are devalued. I think that, you know, Saquon Barkley, you know, Derek Henry, guys like that have made people come back to their senses that running backs are important.
Where they respect the running back position because they've treated that like dog shit for a decade.
And I've never been able to understand it. And I think Ashton Genty is going to put the exclamation point on that.
I tell you what, my brief meeting of this young kid and his family. Listen, I'm talking with this young man, and you know, you're looking in the eyes of the soldier. We start, you know, our conversation led to me saying, when you see us on Sunday, all we want you to do is light him up. And there was a smile on his face, like, I know what you're talking about. And I started watching him since he became such a high prospect. This cat has God-given abilities, you know, and even the greatest running backs have been coached to hone their craft, so to speak. But this guy has the want to, man. I don't know if it's for his family or for where his family is from, but he's playing for a community, not just for Ashton. And
Yeah,
you can see
it's a
that
greater purpose, man. You can
greater
see it.
purpose than yourself.
Man, look, yeah, and that's what it's all about. That to me, that's what makes life worth living, right? Finding something that is greater than yourself to represent, right? We live in a very selfish and cynical society, right? And I think the foundation of being a Raider fan and believing when sometimes the team hasn't given us a whole lot to believe in is faith. Is being a person that is hopeful, being a person that is optimistic, being a person that can see greatness even when it seems the most bleak. That's what makes you a great Raider, I think, right? And I think that's what makes all of us a great Raider, man. And you know, really quickly, man, shout out to my guy Intel for the $100 holla, the bomb, supporting the channel. Thank you, Intel. Thank you for supporting this channel, keeping the lights on here at Raider Nation Unlimited, man. We got a couple of more questions, man. Somebody said Charlie Garner. Well, listen, I asked Violator his. This is not yours. This is his. I mean, come on now. These guys are up here trying to shape somebody else's Mount Rushmore. Charlie Garner was my man. I love Charlie.
Don't shake the tree of coconut that's gonna hit you in the head. Listen,
yeah.
that's why I said I named 4. I could have named 6 or 7, but those were the names that came. And some of it because of personal relationships, you know, knowing what these guys were about. We just spoke on that earlier. It's all of these are just our opinions.
Yeah. Listen, everybody has their own opinions and had their own experiences. Because my Mount Rushmore look a little different. Because my Mount Rushmore would be, you know, Marcus Allen, Bo Jackson, Napoleon Kaufman. And I'm going to have some recency bias. I'm going to put my man Josh Jacobs there.
Oh, true.
I love Josh, man. True. I'm going to put Josh in there.
Yeah, he is a Raider to me.
Yeah, he'll always be a Raider. It really makes me sad that, you know, he wasn't able. He always wanted to be a Raider. You know, everything that it makes me sad that he wasn't able to continue his journey on with this team. The only thing is that in the past, we've seen the Raiders move on from people like, you know, Khalil Mack and move on from Amari Cooper and people like that. And they haven't really been able to replace them right now. With Khalil Mack, we got lucky with Max, and Max has kind of filled that void, right? More than filled that void. With Amari
Cooper, them together.
Yeah, oh my God, that would have been amazing. And that could have happened because Max was taken in the 4th round, right? So it wasn't like he was a 1st round pick. And after we moved on from Amari, we went out there. We got, unfortunately, you know, Henry Ruggs was a great kid, was drafted, you know, and it didn't work out. And it's sad, you know, that everything worked out the way it worked. But now we have a situation where we've moved on from Josh Jacobs. And this is the first time in a long time where I feel like we've drafted a person that's probably, just from the eye, he hasn't played a snap yet. But I think we've improved that position with Genty, man. I really, really do, man. It's amazing how the fortunes of this team has kind of changed, right?
And think about it, Wasted. You got Mostert there to kind of groom him. You know, yeah. Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, man. I think that's going to be big. I think the running back room this year, I want to get into that a little bit. The running back room, us being at the bottom of the league,
yes,
you know, from a run, is something that I've never expected. The one thing the Raiders have always had is a decent running game, right? For most of my life, right?
It's unacceptable.
It was unacceptable, you know, where our running game was. Bringing in a guy like Mostert, man, and having, you know, some of the guys we have in the building, I think that this room is going to leap this year. And I think that there's a guy that we had last year that a lot of people are down on. I think Zamir White playing a complementary role to Genty I think Zamir White is going to do okay. I think he's going to make this team this year. A lot of people don't think he will. I think with Chip Kelly's scheme, I think you have some competent, smart coaches. You probably get a little bit better of a situation up front. You know, I know when he was at Georgia, it was more of a zone running scheme and not a power running scheme. And I think he kind of exists better in that. I think Zamir White is going to surprise a lot of people. A lot of people have written him off. A lot of people are talking about Mostert. People are talking about Sincere McCormick, which I love Sincere McCormick too. You know, Dylan Laube, guys like that. But I think that Zamir White is going to have something to say. I think Zamir White is going to be a guy that is going to improve under this new regime.
And talking about Zamir, that's going to show his true character. when he bounces back from being put on the scrap heap, so to speak. And competition, I feel, is going to bring this out of him. You know, because like you say, you have what they call in baseball that changeup.
Yeah.
When you're versatile like that, I think we'll see an offense like when Hugh Jackson was running the offense then. For us.
Oh yeah, man. Well, Run DMC, Michael Bush. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Shout out to Run DMC too. Shout out to Darren McFadden, man. Yeah. Man, he's one of my favorites too. I love Darren McFadden, man. Oh, yeah. I forgot to put my man McFadden, man. That was my guy, man. Yeah. Man, you know what's funny? It's certain years, there's certain players on the Raiders. Like one of my favorites is a guy that a lot of people don't talk about anymore. But one of my favorite players ever to play for this team, man, is Derek Burgess.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Ooh,
loved him, man.
Menace.
I still got 2 Derek Burgess jerseys, man.
Undersized guy, but he was a menace. See, and Ennis shared this with me and my son. You know, the combine is like a meat factory, but they have no machine that can measure this.
Yeah.
He says all you can do is see the effect on the gridiron. And dude, when Burgess was there, I just remember shots of him coming around the edge so quick. Before the quarterback was back, he was on his ass. That speed coming off the corner, you thought it was Charles Woodson, but it was Burgess.
Yeah, Burgess was a beast.
Just a beast. He goes to eat, man. That's all in a nutshell, Wasted. That's what we're talking about. Guys who love to eat on Sunday.
Yes, sir. Let me ask you a question, man. And maybe this might not be the most appropriate question, right? But has there ever been who's a player that played for another team that you wish was a Raider? Do you have 2 guys that you wish was a Raider, man?
Yeah.
Shout out to my guy Graphics in the place. Shout out to my right hand man.
Salute, nephew. Ray Lewis, as I just mentioned earlier. And back in the day, well, I'm gonna stay in modern times because that's where we're at right now. But Ray Lewis was an old soul to me. It reminded me of the Dick Buckuses of back in the day. He played like that to me. And Lawrence Taylor.
You know what's funny? Those are my exact 2 people. LT and Ray Lou, man. Man, you know it's funny. I saw LT down. My wife and I, we still have a timeshare down in Florida, right? At Star Island Resort, right? And it was right around the time when LT was going through some of the stuff he was going through. And they had like a celebrity golf outing, and he was there, and Tony Dorsett and all of them was there. And me and my father-in-law, we sitting there at the bar, we kicking it. My father-in-law, he like, man, he said, goes, hey man, son, is that Tony Dorsett? Because you think he's gonna be like this gigantic guy. He's a small dude, man. Like so he's small, but so we talking to Tony Dorsett, we kicking it, having a good time, And then I see LT just walk out and come to the pool. He sat at the edge of the beach chair, and it looked like he just didn't want to talk to anybody. Man, and people just they gravitated towards him, and he just got up and walked away. And when he got up and walked away, it just was a coincidence. I was going to the bathroom, and I ran into him. And I just looked at him in his eyes. I said, don't let him stress you, dog. Dapped him up. He kept going. And I remember LT because, being from New Jersey, bro, LT they used to have the Pop Warner banquet at his restaurant.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like LT is, man, I love LT, man. It's definitely LT and Ray Lou for me, man. So
but Wasted, that's as football fans or any sports fan, that's why you put the stamp icon on these players or coaches, because they're like, you broke the mold when they were developed. The mold was broken, and it's hard shoes to fill. And you see this in the modern day era when we always compare the present with the past. That creates the whole history. But this is some hard shoes to fill, man, with these 2 players in particular that we.
Now they broke the mold. They're immortal. Real quick, I wanted to ask you the best game that you were ever in person. What's the most memorable, your favorite game that you attended in person? And what was the most heartbreaking game that you've ever attended in person?
Oh, man, damn. I got two favorites. The first one was when we played Denver the last game of the season to get into the playoffs, and then we played them the next week in the playoffs. And that was famously known as the Fan Man game, where this freaking guy,
I remember that,
came into the freaking Coliseum on a fan, and we're just like, what the hell is that? Dude, that was such an intense game. I think that was a game where Chester McLaughlin got his ankle messed up on a crackback block. And that's the first time I've seen John Elway take himself out of a game, because here we talk about attitude. That whole defense took their play up a notch. Howie, Greg Townsend, Bill Pickel were just, and God, I just talked about him earlier. Reggie, were just kicking Elway's ass. His O-line couldn't protect him. They beat the shit out of him within that third quarter. That fourth quarter, he clocked out, dude. And I'm leaning over the wall, dude. Let's like, this shit is it's unreal though as a fan to see that intensity. And then my next favorite one was the AFC Championship game against the Titans.
Oh my God, man. That's one of my favorite games ever, man. Metallica in the parking lot.
In the parking lot on a semi. Come on, bro.
Come on, man. Nothing like that, man.
But again, to get to the Super Bowl, and the media was kind of like, yeah, the Raiders, blah, blah, blah. Steve McNair and Eddie George, and, our defense put a beat down on those cats, dude. And I always use the phrase, paint scraping, like in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Paint scraping. They were scraping paint, dude.
It's war marks all over everybody's helmets, man.
That game was so physical. I got into it with one of their DBs, man, and he threw Gatorade in my eyes after the game. And first time I almost jumped on the field. But the cop said, hey.
He got you back to reality, huh?
Hey.
Come on, we can't be leaving no bracelets, bro.
Look, no, they was like, we're going to put you in bracelets, first of all, and we're taking your ass to OPD. Well, that's the spot you don't want to be in, trust me.
Nah, not at all.
But they saw the whole incident, and I'm just like, this same cat, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he was talking shit to me coming out of the tunnel. So that took my game to another level. So he's on my radar all day. So he heard it going in halftime and coming out. So that was my thank you at the end of the game was some Gatorade, man. So the worst game, wow, God, the last game in Oakland. That beat down.
Oh my God! Yeah, losing to Gardner, Booger,
that loss to Jacksonville. We're emotional because we know it's the last time in Mecca, and then for them to just fall apart in the fourth period. You saw the trash going on the field afterwards.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed for Derek Carr. They treated him like he was the other team's quarterback, and it was just, I was heartbroken, bro. It just,
I was too.
To see that team collapse, and I don't know whether they had checked out, but to see them collapse in 15 minutes was just mind-boggling. It
was insane, man. The energy in that stadium.
Yes.
It was all the way that you guys got everybody lathered up, the way we were lathered up at home watching the games. I wasn't there. It was insane. I mean, real quick, you mentioned DC. DC retired. I would like to see the Raiders bring him back and let him retire as a Raider. Yes. Salute to DC. How do you contextualize Derek Carr's career as a Raider? Because it's one of the hardest careers, I think, to contextualize, because most of the greats in Raider Nation have won and they had a lot of success. Some have not won Super Bowls. Most of them have, right? But Derek was always, at one point, he was like that oasis in the desert. He was the one shining example when things were going bad. And it got to a point where he was such a polarizing guy, because I've never seen a player, from my prism, that has split a fan base. Because you have some people who, because I'm realistic. Like, I go back to Plunkett, and I remember, Haas and Steve Berline and Jay Schrader. Yes. We've had a lot of quarterbacks here, right? So for me, then Todd Marinovich, and so for me, I don't get attached to the players in that way. When it's time to move on, I can see it. I make my peace with it, and I'm like, listen, I think we need to improve here, right? And then you have some people in this nation that have grown up with that quarterback. He was here so long. He was the only thing that they knew, right? He was their hero. They weren't around to see Bo Jackson. They weren't around to see Marcus Allen. Some of them weren't around to see Timmy Brown. They didn't really get a whole lot of C. Wood. They didn't. It was him, right? And and I don't want to badmouth Derek, right? But it's a hard career to contextualize because there wasn't a whole lot of winning. How do you contextualize Derek's career as a Raider, and where do you put him on your pantheon of Raider quarterbacks?
I won't rate him. First of all, let me start with this. That kid, and like I say, he was a phenom at Fresno State. And a kid growing up wanting to play for this team, I kind of put myself in that position. He wanted to play for this team. So it's like a dream come true once you get drafted there. Then he went through the whole turnstile of coaches and changing systems. So to me, he kind of mastered that. And like I say, meeting him, he's a class guy. So he already had my affection. But like you said, I've learned you don't get attached to players. They're short-lived. Those eras of 10, 15, 20 years with one team, unheard of anymore. And I think that's what really split Raider Nation. But some other underlying stuff, but mainly, he's not good enough. He didn't have everything around him at first. When we saw that team be at its best that I've seen was 2016.
Yeah, man.
That was the closest we were, competitive-wise since 2002.
Yeah.
2016. So he went through his growing pains. He went through the ups and downs. I think the injury really changed a lot of things intellectually as far as how he was going to put himself on the line, because before that injury, remember, Derek would, if we needed a first down,
he would leap. He'd take off, he'd leap and dive over people.
There was no fear. Like I say, man, but life throws stuff at you. It's how many times you get back up. And to his credit, he stood back up every time. I think he personally got a raw deal towards the end.
Yeah.
The regime had no ties to him. And they had already said, okay, we're going to move on from this guy. Now let me go retrospective on you. What if he had stayed there and the talent that we amassed, well, we wouldn't have even gone through this whole Minshew, and before Minshew, it was
Jimmy G and all of that.
The Jimmy G's nightmare. But anyway, think if we had all those players that we had and put Derek in the middle of that.
It depends, the way I've always seen him, because I was one of the guys, and I'm not going to shy away from it. I thought it was time to move on, right? And I thought that
to move on,
it was time to move on. I think that the problem with the organization was that you have certain people in the organization that wanted to see him win, and this is the reason why I thought it was time to move on. The problem with the National Football League is money, right? So you have a situation where you have a guy that's getting paid like a top 5 quarterback that's playing like a bottom 3rd one. And then now you can't outfit the team. And it takes a lot of talented people in the building to be able to continue to win after that. Look at what Kansas City, after they paid Mahomes, they won that Super Bowl on his rookie contract.
Big time.
And that was the thing. And after we didn't win after his rookie deal, and people also had to get paid, and then we're not drafting properly and things like that, and not by any fault of his, but I thought it was time to move on. I'm always a proponent of moving on a year too early than a year too late. And I think when you bring in a new regime with a player from the past regime that you really don't have the best intentions for, I think that soon as Gruden was let go, I think Derek should have been, they should have got some draft capital for him, and they should have moved on at that particular point, because it was never going to work. When you have a guy like Josh McDaniels that thinks that he knows everything and it tries to be baby Belichick,
come on,
let him go and go bring in the guy I just think it was getting to a point where Derek could have been super bad and he wouldn't have been good enough for that guy. That guy never wanted him. And I think that there were people in the building, I could be wrong, but I think there were people in the building that wouldn't allow him to move on from DC. And that's what I think, and not to say that Josh McDaniels, like for me, I don't think the Josh McDaniels thing would have worked anyway, right? I think Bill Belichick is and Bill Parcells and guys that are kind of demonstrative in that way. They have other ways to prove to you that they belong and that you belong. And, it's a give and a take. I think with Josh McDaniels, there are certain people that are supposed to be leaders and there are other people that are supposed to be supporting characters. He's not a main character. He'll never be a good head coach. And, it was smart of Mark Davis to try it, right? Look, you say to yourself, you're like, damn, somebody off the Belichick family tree got to be good. I mean, God, dog, if it's going to be anybody, it should be Josh, right? It didn't work out. It is what it is. I'm glad the Raiders moved on when they did. But when I think of Carr, I think that he was just always a year too late or a year too early. And that's the way I look at him. And it's funny, man, when I think of the worst game I can think of, it was when he broke his leg. That Christmas, and you're talking to a person who, my father died on Christmas Eve. My father died on Christmas Eve, right? I would say that Christmas and DC breaking his ankle was the two worst. You can ask my children. It was like somebody died. Yeah, it was like when he broke his ankle, it was like somebody died. Christmas dinner, because everybody always comes over to my house for Christmas. My in-laws come over to my house. Everybody comes to my house, bruh. I didn't have two words for anybody. I was up in my room. I closed the door. I came down and blessed the food. Cut the rib roast because we always do the rib roast. I cut the rib roast, served everybody, and I took a couple bites and went back up to my room, man. My mother was even like, she said, son, what's wrong? You okay? Man, I'm telling you, bro, that was like somebody died, man. It was the worst when he broke his ankle, man, because I knew it was never going to be the same again. I knew it was never going to be the same again because I knew that they had to pay all of them guys. That was the year, man. And I don't want to depress everybody because we talk about speaking life in the Raider Nation. We're not going to go there, right? Look, I want to say this because it's time for us to bring the train back because I don't want to keep too much of your time, man. We've been going on and on and on, man.
We can keep going, brother.
The future. The future. What are your keys to having a bright and successful future with the regime that we have and just in Raider Nation as a whole? Like how do you think we meld the top? Because we got a few key things here, right? They have the money now, right?
Yes.
There was a time where you and I remember when the Raiders used to have to wait for the TV money to make their payroll. Now we knew when certain free agents were out there, we knew we weren't even in the running.
No.
We knew it. Then we knew that we were in California and you live there, the taxes are crazy. And then we would lose out on guys like Ndamukong Suh because you go to Miami because it's a tax-free state. Now we are in a tax-free state. Now we have cap space. Now we have foundational pieces in the building. Now we have the best facilities, the best training. The Raiders are routinely ranked up at the top of the league when it comes to all of those different things that we never had. So we have that. We have a ravenous fan base that's still there waiting. So now we need the success, right? We got the money. We got the palace. We got the fan base. Do you see the Raiders?
Just win.
Let's win. So do you see us becoming what we once were and being what Al Davis always spoke about? He always said that the greatness of the Raiders lies in its future. Do you think the future is now?
I think the future is in 2 seasons. 2 seasons. One reason I say that, you ask some of those important factors. Number one, these youngsters buying in. We have a plan. We've seen that throughout the draft. This has been most exciting draft for me, in recent years, when you see them execute a plan. Not the flashiest, because we're conducting business. We're building foundational pieces. Now, they ain't the prettiest pieces, but they're functional and they last a lifetime. That's the way I see us going. Secondly, you've got wisdom and experience inside the building. And like I said, I was telling guys, Coach Carr has a Rolodex bigger than most of us will ever see.
Yeah.
Resources. Players want to play for him. That's another plus. Vegas being a tax-free state is a big plus when it comes to the players. But here's the deal. When we take care of, and I'm saying extending some of our other veterans that need to be taken care of, we still have cash available to go and get any veteran to stick in here to win now. And I think they're going to make a couple of moves like that after, was it June
1st?
June 1st. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, right? Like, yeah, maybe we might have a Jalen Ramsey sighting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's a lot of smoke out there, but like I say, one or two pieces on that back end, look out. Man,
look out. Violator, I appreciate you for pulling up and gracing us with your presence, man. It's been a long time coming. I thank you. You know, you are a legend
during the season.
Yeah, we definitely. Listen, my platform is always open to you. I appreciate you, man. Is there anything you want to say to Raider Nation, man? Because, you know, you're at the forefront of curating the nation. Is there anything you want to say to all the Raiders out there, all the young Raiders, all of the old Raiders, all of the people who've been down, to keep everybody rolling?
I just wish I could just transfuse a couple of my cells to all those Raider Nations who have been doubting the team, the organization. Listen, I understand a lot of the youngsters, like 40 and down, haven't seen too much winning, but to hear all of us OGs and older fans keep pounding our chest for this, there's a reason for it. So stick around and get some calluses on your hand, helping us row this ship to victory, because that Super Bowl parade is going to be off the chain. So hang in there with us and enjoy the fruits of the labor.
Man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, brother. Guys, this has been a splendiferous occasion. Thank every single one of you guys for pulling up. Thank you, everybody who sent the super, anybody who made a shared a like, anybody that made a comment. Salute to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Violator. And we are out of here. Wait, I gotta wait. And you know what I always say?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
It went through the roof, y'all. It went through the roof. It's going through the roof this season, y'all. Y'all have a great and powerful and terrific night, man. Peace, y'all.